Hi guys, come on in. I'm just getting everything set up over here. I'm trying to do this on Instagram and here, so we get backups of everything. Okay, let's see. Let's see if that works. Hi. Okay, let's see. If you guys are here, come say hi. We're just getting everything set, ready. Good morning. Hi. I'm so excited for this. This is like, I don't know if any of you remember, but I did ask like a month or so ago. I'm like, does anybody want to do these? Like the Q&As, let's go live and like just do them. I feel like I'm a little wordy sometimes. So that's part of the reason. I'm like, I feel like it is nice. Maybe just not all the time because I know everyone's busy, but just like once in a while, like once a quarter to do them lives, because I feel like the questions that you guys ask are like sometimes they like need some backstory or some explaining. It's rarely something, as you've noticed, it's rarely something that I can answer in like just a sentence or two. So this hopefully will enable us to like get like talk a little bit deeper of like, okay, here's why I think that, like, here's the answer, and here's also what I know you're actually asking when that question comes in. So if you're just joining, come say hi. We have two different, we've got the computer going, and then also on Instagram going. Instagram, I know, will kick us off at the hour mark exactly, but I will be on the other like workshop recording. So if you registered for the link and you want to pop over after the hour, if we're still going, just know that. Hi guys, thanks for waving and saying hi. I know lives are so funny. I think they're fun, but I know like they can be funny to watch. You're like, okay. So we got yeah, tell me where you're calling in from, listening in from. Sounds like an old school DJ. But it's nice to know. Aloha from Maui. We've got Maui, we've got Issaquah, we've got Colorado over here. You guys are awesome. Okay, so I'm so excited for this, overly excited for this, because this is actually one of my favorite things, is just checking in with you guys every week and being like, what's going on? Is there anything I can help with? Is there, I feel like sometimes a very strange combination. Have you ever heard the thing where it's like, whatever made you weird as a kid is what is like your kind of superpower as an adult? So this is one of those things for me where I'm like, the things that I felt like that I was teased about when I was growing up, like being so interested in, let's say, like food and healthy food, and like really interested in personal development and growth, and really interested in like activity, and like a really interesting combination of things that were considered dorky are really cool. I think it is interesting when you guys do ask questions that like the range that they fully cover. So that's why about motherhood, it could be about business, it could be about health, could be about food stuff, could be about mindset stuff. I'm like, these are all the things that I am obsessed with and that I spend the majority of my time continuing to learn about and dig into, and also teach, you know, when I lead and coach clients, and especially through the Simply Your Life program, which closes tomorrow, as you guys probably know. So that's just the perspective. It's not that I am an expert on any of these things. It's just I have a lot of lived experience in each of those different areas. So it can sometimes lead to me having to learn things a lot sooner or a lot quicker in my life. So anyways, that said, these are all just my opinions on things. Hi, you guys. Welcome. Yes, this is a live Q&A. We got so many awesome questions that came in yesterday. I can't wait to answer. So I think we should probably just jump in, knowing too, if you have things that come up, or that, like I say, or you have follow-up questions, feel free to also, you can ask those as well. And I'll try to keep checking back in between the two platforms. Okay, so we got some really good ones today. full ranging the spectrum of a lot of different things, lighter things, and to like some more deeper questions, which are the ones I love usually. Okay, so the first question that came in was, are there any practices that you have to combat comparing? So comparing is something I talk about a lot because I'm just such a big believer of staying in your own lane. Like, what is with what you're doing in life, whether that's what you're doing during the day, just like there are so many things that pull our attention these days, like from social media to like constant, emails coming through to text messages to like, we just have so many distractions and ways that could continually like pull us off from what we actually want to do or focus on. And I think a lot of the comparison has been something that has like exponentially started to double in the last couple years with technology. Technology is awesome, but there's also some parts to it where I feel like it's not normal for the human brain, the amount of like stimulation and the amount of, opportunities to look at what other people are doing constantly, so social media is the perfect example of this. So the first thing is just like having a philosophy of like, it actually doesn't matter what everybody else is doing. And sometimes that means just having some better boundaries for yourself, because here's the thing, you have like a limited amount of energy every single day. So you could either spend that energy pouring out, looking and watching what other people are doing or what other people are doing with their one beautiful, precious life, or take that same amount of energy and like turn it inwards and be like, what do I want? Like, what is it that I want from my one beautiful and precious life? And I feel like a lot of times you have to, it's just part of like living in autopilot, which so many of us do all the time. That's the way our culture is wired. That's the way we're kind of like encouraged to think and live, but creating like a different way to live for yourself. And this is something I talk about in the Simply Real Life program. It's actually a big component of this is starting to take all that energy that you are pouring externally that's actually not giving you life back, and being able to like rein it back into like, what do I want? Like use it as a mirror to be like, what is it that I want? What is it that really lights me up? What are the things that I feel like so happy when I am doing? What are the things that like bring me so much joy and bring me so much life? So whenever you feel maybe like you're going down that path of comparison, or you're going down that path of feeling like, oh, well, they have this and they have this, or they're doing this, or they're taking this trip, like use that as an opportunity instead of continuing to spiral down and down, to be like, okay, well, what would I like to be doing? So in some ways, I think that comparing, so this is where, and I talk about this too, of like jealousy and comparison can often go hand in hand. So when you see that, you can also use that opportunity. Let's say you're scrolling social media, right? And you see somebody or something that you're like coveting or jealous of, or you're like, wow, like they really have it all figured out, which nobody does, by the way. But you're kind of like you can feel yourself going to that place again, and then therefore it's making you feel worse about yourself. However, my biggest piece of advice is to like take that moment as like a learning opportunity, because whoever you are looking at, you are seeing some sort of trait that they have, or some decision that they've made, or some fear that they got over, and they're doing it and living their lives, and they're the full expression of that. And if that makes you feel bad or worse about yourself, that can just be a hint of like, that may be something that you actually want, or that may be a trait that you actually do possess yourself, but you are blocking yourself from it, either from fear, or you have these limiting beliefs, or you have these thoughts or these stories that you have told yourself, or something that has happened in the past that told you that you couldn't have that thing, or that was not available for you. So that's where like the mindset stuff is so hand in hand with everything with your health, and that's why when I talk about the Simply Real Life program, I'm like, yes, like your health is your food and your workouts, and it has to start there. You have to have the basic foundation, but these other things of like how you are actually thinking, the way that your brain is wired, is it wired towards fear? Is it wired towards comparison? Is it wired towards jealousy? you can change those things, but a lot of it is becoming aware that that's how your brain is like deviating. Like that is where the autopilot comes in. So I would just say, like, practices to combat comparing is like, use those moments as a hint to yourself of something that you actually want to call into your life a little bit more, or you want to embody a little bit more. So I see that as like you can see them as people who are helping you like find yourself, helping you find the things that light you up, helping you find like who you really are. So again, I think if you feel like a lot of comparison coming through, it could be as simple as like setting some more energetic boundaries around like technology or the things that do make you feel like that. Or the alternative, and what I think is actually the better idea, will solve the root issue. I'm always a fan of doing that, not just solving like the surface level thing, but the root issue is that maybe you're not so sure of what you want, or you're not actually doing the things in your life that do make you feel content and aligned and happy. Does that make sense? So I think it can just be just an opportunity, right? Don't see it as a bad thing. Just see it as something as like, oh, okay, this is interesting. Like, the world out there is like telling me something that I'm either ignoring or have kind of put to the side or said that I don't have time, but it's like this deep desire in you, and that will continue to show up until you start taking action on the things that do actually help like fill your cup. And okay, I love that question. It's so relevant. Like, don't we all just do like, that's also normal, I guess that's what I'm saying too. It's not like that's not normal. It can just be a helpful thing to actually with, versus like you feel like you're comparing or you're jealous, and then you just kind of like tune out or shut off, and then you go numb out with food or shopping or scrolling online or just like trying not to think about it. That's rarely the answer, but that's actually how we're all trained and encouraged and conditioned, is like the moment you feel uncomfortable or something uncomfortable, we deviate into like, what's safe, what's comfortable, what's normal, let's distract, let's keep busy, let's just like not address this thing. But if you feel like something keeps coming up, like a theme in your life, whether it's comparison or jealousy, any of those things can just be like a really helpful thing to look at, because it can crack you open to all these other possibilities for yourself. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. That was just question number 1, you guys. If I'm not careful, this could be like literally hours long. Okay. The next question, which I love, it actually goes very well with that one, is how did you learn to tune out of the noise of what others are doing? So this is something I talk about a lot. This is something that a lot of the blog posts have been about lately, because again, these are the questions that I get asked the most. The question that when I answer, these are the things that everybody deals internally. Thank you for being the person to actually ask this question, because it's like these are the things that like we deal with in our mental capacity, in our mindset, and that is connected to how we do everything. That's connected to the food you eat. It's connected to your hunger. It's connected to how your hormones function. It's connected to everything. Like food, or our health is like that. It is mental, emotional, and physical. And so you have to make sure that you are looking at all parts of it. So I love that these questions are coming in that are asking these things too, of like, what are those inner thoughts that you're maybe afraid to say or ask? So this question was, how do you tune out of the noise of what others are doing? So I think a lot of times, again, can come back to boundaries for yourself, of like staying focused on what you want to pour your energy into, and not going into like the autopilot mode of just getting pulled away constantly into social media or emails or other people's like requests of you or problems, of having a little bit like more blinders on. But it is also about giving yourself the space and the time to like get quiet, because in the quiet, again, is where most people feel uncomfortable, because we are not used to just being quiet, again, without distract. But in quiet is where so many gifts are found. Like in our quiet and in stillness and in peace with ourselves is where like we can start to actually feel what we're feeling, and like name what those emotions are. And so feeling what you're feeling, it helps you get a little bit more clue into like what does feel good for you, so you really can tune out what other people are doing, because it doesn't matter. Everybody is different and unique and comes from a different background and had different parents and had different things. So it doesn't matter what they're doing. What matters is you, right? So there are so many things that I think just learning to tune out that noise means, again, starting to bring some of your energy inward and asking questions like, who am I? Like, what do I like to do? What things bring me joy? What things feel really expansive to me when I do them, like expansive and light? What things, again, or people or activities make me feel contracted, And so those can be some very basic questions that, again, go so much deeper into figuring out who you are, what you like, what you need, to function optimally and well. Because we're all a little bit different. So a waste of time looking at what others are doing, because your heart and what your soul and the things that are that kind of call to you, those are the signs of what would make you the happiest in life, So if you can start to focus on those and just starting to practice, I think it starts with having moments of peace and quiet. And that's why I talk a lot about your daily rituals and making sure you have, even if it's 5 minutes a day, even if you're a mom and you're busy or you're working 60 hours a week, making the time to make sure that you have at least 5 minutes a day where you can just check in with yourself, check in, how am I doing today? What do I need more of today? What do I need less of today? Instead of just going through the motions of life or checking off the boxes, it will get you nowhere close to what actually feels satisfying to you in your life until you can start to get quiet. And I'm just a big fan of trying to infuse those moments more often in your life than not. So finding a way to do that daily, whether that's journaling or it's a meditation or it's going on a walk or it's taking a bath at night or something just without distractions, so you can start asking yourself those questions of what things make feel really just connected. I want to, yeah. So anyways, it's all connected. And once you start practicing it, it is something that continues to grow because that is your internal guide and your intuition on everything, which you can start to then use into the foods, right? What foods sound actually good to your body and what don't. Having intuition really around what kind of clothing feels good to wear. And that's such a silly thing, but intuition around the people that it feels good to be around, and vice versa as well. Works on the flip side too of something feels off or I don't feel very good or, when I hang out with these people, this always tends to happen or anything like that. That makes sense. Okay, I'm trying to answer these as fast as I can. I know there's so many things. And please let me know if you do have questions. I'm trying to scroll back through here. Yeah. Okay. Okay, there we go. So next question was, can you tell me all of your mom, business, and productivity and efficiency hacks? Sure. I don't want to ever give the impression that I'm I always have it all figured out because I don't. Last night, I was crying because I felt overwhelmed and didn't schedule things the right way, and especially with childcare. But I feel those are the moments that I learn, the most. So I've had a lot of learning experiences the last 2 years, and then getting ready for baby number 2. Yeah, they kind of all go together. Same with business. I feel business has been the best preparation I ever did for motherhood because it has so many of the same things that require that you become very, very intentional with your time because you just have less of it overall. And you think about things like what's going to have the biggest impact, not about can I do every single little tiny thing. It's what is going to have the most impact. So something that has really helped me from this perspective, both with motherhood and with business and just general scheduling of your life and your day. I talked about this on Tuesday, but the book, The One Thing, it is, for me, was life-changing. I highly recommend it. It is, the principle behind the book is much more about scheduling and business. But I actually find it very applicable to almost every area of life. So in the book, the concept is this. It says one thing. So you start to ask yourself, whether it's looking at your to-do list for the day or it's looking at like your goals for the year, let's say, or it's looking at something of like, okay, you're just looking at like all these different things and like feeling overwhelmed that there's so much to do, and how are you ever going to get it done? So his question is like, what is the one thing on this list that if I can do it or complete it, makes everything else irrelevant, or something that's not as urgent? So like, what is the one thing that makes everything else irrelevant or easier? And I use that question all the time. I have like started doing it like with my calendar, with my to-do list of like, what is the one thing today that I could do that would make the rest irrelevant or easier? What is the, one task, with business? What is the one thing? What is, it also comes, I think, to like a general life principle that now I feel like, I'm like, yeah, this makes so much sense. When you think about, let's just take your health, for example, all the things that you're supposed to do to be healthy. There's like eating well, there's, eating good, fresh, clean food. It's like, making sure you have a little bit of time to cook, even if it's really simple. It doesn't have to be complicated. It's like moving your body, making sure you have time, mental time and space, and to get quiet, figure out good boundaries. And there's all these things that you have to do. But when I think about the one thing with health, this explains so much of Simply Real Life and the principle and philosophy of everything that I do and talk about, no matter if it's with health or motherhood or business or mindset or any of it, is that when you're thinking about what is the one thing that I could do here that makes the rest of these items irrelevant or easier, when it comes to your health, the one thing is always food. The one thing is always food. The book's called The One Thing. It's asking. It's always food. What is the one thing on that list that makes everything else irrelevant or easier? It's food. It's eating real food. It's just making sure that no matter what you do, you eat real food as often as you can and as you're normal, because that makes it less important and irrelevant if you're working out every single day, less important or irrelevant if everything is dialed in. If you have that one thing, it makes the downstream effects of everything else feel easier. Because when you're eating well, that also takes care of your energy. You feel really good and your blood sugar is stable and you feel energized. And then you actually start to sleep better and you start to crave better foods. And it's like the domino that knocks everything else over and makes it easier and not harder on yourself. So I just think that this is true with our health. And this is something that I talk about in Simple Real Life. Like, can you guys start to get that sense? I'm like, the questions you're asking are here. The real answer is actually way below that, because you have to look at this at a much bigger perspective of your life, in totality, and think like, where does this fit in? So when it comes to like just productivity and efficiency in general, I think it's really important to be very clear on the things that are important to you in your life. And that means saying no a lot. It means saying, just being protective of your time, especially if you are at the point, let's say in business or in motherhood, where there are a lot of demands on you. Again, it can be different when you're in different stages of life, but for the stage that is feeling very full and very busy, and there's a lot of demands and a lot of things going on, it's like being very intentional about which of the things you can pour into, because you can't do it all. So questions like that help me, like, what is the one thing here? And that's why I emphasize food so much and keeping food simple and easy, like 5 ingredients or less, 10 to 15 minutes or less, because like you just need to get it done. And that makes everything else in every other part of your life better, easier, irrelevant at times. So that's how my brain works. And that's how it works with food. It's how it works with workouts. It's how it works with mindset stuff. It's like when you have stuff that comes up, let's say maybe it's the comparison, or you're just always paying attention to what other people are doing, or like those can just be hints and clues of like you have these like deeper seated beliefs or stories you're telling yourself or fears that are kind of actually impacting every area of your life. So it's important to like start to dismantle those, because they affect your relationships, they affect your energy, they affect how you sleep, they affect the food that you're attracted to and wanting to go for and eat. It's all combined, all together. Yeah. Okay. So I think hopefully that helps. I just become very ruthless on the things that I do pay attention to. And I ask for a lot of help and a lot of support. And again, there are a million things that I do not do that moms do. I just know that I can't do that. My energy is not well spent there. It's not worth the time. I ask for help with those other things. So it's not that you are doing it all. It's not that you're doing it all, right? You're focusing on like, what is the most impactful? What is the most important? And what are those dominoes in your life that then make everything else start to tip over easier? You know, we're trying to make it easier on yourself, not harder. You're not trying to add more pressure and more perfection and more standards and more things that you have to get done that just like create so much anxiety in your life. You are trying to simplify and like offload. So that is what it's all about. Yeah. Yeah, and it impacts everything. It's like when you are feeling good and you are feeling like your blood sugar is stable and you're rested, you are like high vibe. You can do anything. You can tackle anything that comes your way, whether again, it's in your relationships or with your kids or like just your general overall patience. That's why it's like, what are those foundational components? So that's actually what the 6 weeks of the Simply Real Life program is that closes tomorrow, is we go through like food. Okay, we focus on that. What is that? We focus on food and then the relationship to your hunger, because your relationship to food, again, impacts everything else. Relationship to yourself, your relationship to others, how you handle different things. Again, the food that you are attracted to, the things that you are drawn to, the people that you bring into your life, like it all starts there. So we go through like 6 weeks. We talk about your body. We're talking about the mental stuff. We're talking about these limiting beliefs and these fears and these emotions and how we have been trained as women to take on everything and not ask for help and try to do everything great, but we can't. And then we fail and then we feel bad and then we're overwhelmed and then we're stressed out and then we go stress eat and we stress shop and we numb out and we zone out on social media. You know, it's all connected back to those things. I could go on forever. Okay, should we turn to something? Let's go for something a little bit lighter, easier. Although we have some great questions that still relate to a lot of these things. Okay, so the next question was, are you finding out the sex of your baby? Yes, we actually have, and we know, but I just haven't shared it yet. So I will soon. I'm waiting for the Simply Real Life program to kick off. Again, it's my favorite thing that we do every year. It's what I pour all of my heart and all of my energy into. I actually no longer take one-on-one clients. So this is the way that I coach one-on-one. So this takes a lot of my time and energy, which I'm so happy that it does. But yeah, then there's so many things happening behind the scenes. So many things happening. You guys will soon see, but things are wild right now. So yes, we know I will like share it later. But again, first things first, what am I focusing on first? And right now it is this. So yes, coming soon. The next question too is on that note, how many kids do you want? I mean, I have always known I'm from a family of like 2. So I have one sister. So I always knew it was not going to be just one kid. I have always thought 3 or 4, always thought that. And then in this pregnancy, because it has been so much more rough and intense than even it was with Noah, which is saying a lot because I did not feel normal or good until 3rd trimester with him. And this is kind of proving to be the same, but it was so much more intense in the beginning with hyperemesis. So in that stage, I did get really sad because I was like, I don't know if I can actually do this again. Like, I don't know. And so I've been trying to read stories of women who have hyperemesis, who like had this very extreme pregnancy experience. And I don't know. And so I always go back to like, I just need to see how I feel. You know, I don't need to make that decision right now. I have always thought that I wanted a big family. But again, we'll see. If 2 kids and we're like, whoa, this is plenty, like running a business, like my husband has a crazy intense job too. And so do I. And, you know, trying to do all those things while also taking care of myself and my health and my sanity. We'll see. So Yeah, we'll see. But I love being a mom. I was never, if you've read my story before, I was never somebody that was like, oh, I just can't wait to have kids. Like I'm just like, can't wait, and it's gonna be my all, it's gonna be my everything. I was really scared and hesitant to do it because I feel like I have so many other things in my life that I love and I'm so passionate about. But I love it. It's like the best part of my life and day. And it's just amazing. And it's truly a gift. It is truly a gift. Babies are magical. Yeah. So we'll just wait and see. I'm not gonna say that it has to be a certain way. I'll wait and see how I feel, which is how I have learned that it's better for me to do life. Another question on that, was, how did you find daily joys during a difficult pregnancy and or just a difficult stage in life? So could be mourning, loss, grief, could be just you're going through something in life where or normal for things you would normally be very motivated, again, to take care of the one thing in the domino and make sure you're eating great and taking care of yourself and clearing out some of the mental stuff that's keeping you stuck. No, sorry, my dad was calling. Can't talk now, Dad. Can't talk now. We'll see you later. So yeah, finding joy. So yes, I did. Because when you feel like you kind of have nothing to live for, or you're in a dark place, or you're in a time in your life that feels really hard or challenging, I think it's almost even more important to just find little things that you can do or little ways that do make you feel like, okay, it's all going to be okay. So even at my worst, I would still I couldn't look at a screen. I couldn't look at computers. I couldn't work, but I could listen to a book on Audible. So I would lay in bed and be napping, kind of sleeping in and out. And I would listen to a book. And that was my daily joy, or take a shower on the nights that I felt up for it and just try to enjoy that for a couple of seconds before I would have to go throw up again, So just little things that they were different than my normal. But just because they were different than my normal didn't mean that I couldn't do anything at all. So I think that is also just an important thing to keep in mind. It does not have to look the same every day. It does not have to look the same. Taking care of yourself can just be very different things depending what season of life you are in. But it doesn't mean that you can't do it just because it's not perfect. Or again, that comes back to that all or nothing mentality I talk so much about of if you're wanting and you have these expectations for how things need to be or should be, a lot of that can be can make you do nothing. Whereas maybe the better move would be to do something, even if it's different, or even if you consider it to be not as perfect, of a self-care activity or finding little daily joys like that. I hope that makes sense. Okay. Great. You guys are so awesome. Okay. Let's see, somebody was asking, and I don't really spend a lot of time on these questions of me. I'll do a post on pregnancy and hyperemesis later. I am still not feeling great. I every day can make it to about noon. That's the timing of this call. Before I have to go lay down in bed and feel sick pretty much for the rest of the day. But I get the mornings now, which is amazing and feels good. So I feel good now currently. Obviously, I'm not pretending, but later in the day. So still waiting to maybe turn a corner. That will be nice. Okay, let's get back to these more interesting questions, I think. So here was a question. She said, do you have any tips for self-doubt or anxiety that I'm having after a miscarriage? So yeah, first of all, this, I guess, kind of goes hand in hand. I'm so sorry to hear of your loss. It is something that it is so common. It happens to so many women. I have so many friends that have had miscarriages too. And it's just very, very common. And I think the most important part of it is allowing yourself to feel how you feel. There is just a sense of deep grief and deep loss that not too many people understand unless you have gone through it, or unless you have somebody close to you who has gone through it. So first would be just allowing yourself to feel how you actually feel. And this goes for this goes for everyone. This goes for everything, is that I sometimes think that we're always like, oh, we have to be strong, or we have to be tough, or we have to like power through things, when that is actually not at all how women are wired to be or operate. We are very much like, we operate from a heart space a lot of times, and we do have feelings and emotions, and those are not bad. So that's part of where like the rewiring sometimes of our brain is like, something is telling you to feel bad or guilty, or that you should feel one way, but you feel something totally different. Like, that's something to start releasing, of some of these things of like needing it to be or look a certain way. But I will say, like, separate from the circumstance, feeling self-doubt or anxiety after something has happened and you just feel kind of like low or discouraged, or you're kind of in a place of disbelief, of just making sure that you can feel as much as you need to, as much time as you need to continually keep feeling and let it out. Like, don't keep it stored inside. Don't try to just cover it up and move on. Just feel it as deeply as you can, because that's what actually starts to heal. And that's what actually starts to like release that feeling of heaviness, is you have to let your body do that. That's what it's trying to do. But then as you start to move forward, starting to thinking like, if you ever feel self-doubt or anxiety start to creep up, a lot of it can be that you are just sitting in like a fear mindset, where you are just assuming that everything will go the worst possible way. Even with like general anxiety, even for something as silly as like you're stressed out about a meeting you have the next day, or a presentation, and all you're doing at night is thinking and imagining these worst case scenarios and what could happen. And what if this doesn't, go the way that I planned or the way that I'm hoping. So also that can be just a mindset of like, why am I thinking about this in the worst possible way? Why am I thinking of this, that my body is now not capable of something? Like, just because something happened one time does not mean that that is how it will go in the future. Like, can you find an example of somebody else who is in a similar situation where it actually went the other way? So like, could you find somebody else that maybe did have a miscarriage, where the next time that they tried, they had a healthy baby? So that your brain knows that it is possible. So you can start switching from the fear mindset into like the world of possibilities, and sitting more in the like, what is possible, what is like, what could happen, and reveling in that, versus sitting and feeling stuck in the fear. Because what will happen is going to happen, but you sitting in the fear of it and being paralyzed by it and just running through worst possible things, that will make you truly like, our thoughts become our beliefs. So if you're sitting there thinking like, my body can't do this, it's not capable, it's like something's wrong with it, something's wrong with me, like that will become a belief that you hold. And do you know how hard that will make it to get pregnant? If like your body's saying, no, something's wrong, I can't, So I think that, and granted, that's not everything. Yes, like go, with your doctor, there are tests that you can do. There are things that you can do to just make sure everything is good, everything's looking great, that you're healing great. But then moving forward into like, okay, am I staying stuck in fear? Or how can I see the situation out of more possibility, or out of more opportunity, or, just what is the hope, for the future? So I think hopefully I'm not like simplifying that too much, but just being aware of your thoughts, right? Of like where your thoughts are going. And if they're stuck in that really low place, like, are there things you can do to change that story that you're telling yourself? Because that story then becomes your reality. That becomes what you believe to be true. That becomes all the thoughts that you think, and that changes your hormones, that changes your body, that changes your perception of what's going on. And it's just from a thought, So that's where we have to be careful. That's why it is all connected, like thoughts and your emotions and your feelings and your physical body, like they are all connected. And it's crazy how deeply they are wired, that our thoughts and beliefs become these things that then we hold. A lot of times, even for women, like when they can't lose weight, there are a lot of, again, like stuck stories or fears or things or traumas that have happened to them previously in life that they did not like deal with or feel with or like kind of properly walk themselves through. Because again, none of us are ever taught that. But then could be later in life, like your body is physically holding weight. Your heart could be physically holding weight. And that makes it really hard to let go and to trust and release your body. So I think like there are so many things like that where we don't get taught how to deal with it. And so that's a lot of the reason why I focus so much on like your mindset, your thoughts, and your beliefs, because it's so connected to health in your body, you know? And I've had so many circumstances and so many different things like health-wise that it took kind of being stuck in fear and like getting a diagnosis or a doctor like telling me one thing and it's not curable or it takes like this, like with hypothyroidism, which I had SIBO, I had PCOS, like, but all of which once I kind of I've learned a lot after those kind of back-to-back things, that so much of healing actually starts in what you believe and what you believe to be true. So that's where I'm just like, when I see something like that, like the self-doubt and anxiety, again, totally normal and fine. And please feel that for as long as you need to feel, especially if it first happened. But if you feel like it's been, months and you're still kind of stuck in that place or in disbelief, or you don't trust your body, again, that's where like that can be the root of so many other things that happen. So if you don't trust your body, you're not going to trust your hunger. You're not going to trust that that your body can do the things that it's meant to. You're not going to trust that your body can heal. You're not going to trust that like the cravings that you have are things to follow versus, so it's like this, it creates this big disconnect, which is why it's just important to start to look again at all of these different components. So this is something, again, I spend a lot of time with, but thank you for asking this question because it is just so common. And in so many cases, whether it's a miscarriage or something else like that, that feels like a setback, there are two ways that it can play out in your brain. You sit in fear, or you can say, how can I see this out of love? How can I see this out of possibility? Or like, what does this open up for me now? Yeah, good. Thank you for asking that question. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So there's two other questions like this. And then if you guys have any question, if you are here live, I want to make sure that you do have time, that we do have time to answer any of the things that you also want. So we have two more. So if you think of things, feel free to put them in the comments. So this next question was, I need tips for discipline or willpower. Also a great question. So this is something where I feel like if you are struggling with discipline or willpower, it usually means that you are not in alignment somewhere, like with the thing that you're trying to do. So let's take discipline of like snacking late at night, right? Or like willpower of like, that you shouldn't really be doing this thing if you have this goal to be healthier and to feel better, but the thing that you're doing is like late at night, the snacking. So, but you're having a hard time. Like, it's like, you can't quit it. Like there's something there. So the first thing would be like, check in, is it something physical? So with the food example, a lot of times there can be actually like a physical addiction part to it, which is why it's so interesting to actually learn about food. So check first, like, is there an actual physical thing happening here that is like making it impossible for me to do what I want to do? Like, the side of my brain that's like, I see the vision of my life and how I want to be and how I want to operate. But then at the same time, like, why can't I do those things? Why can't I get up in the morning to go for a workout, even though I know what I want? So with the case of food, let's say in the late night snacking, the discipline or willpower could be physical, meaning that if you are eating stuff that is not real food, or you're eating stuff that's like pretty heavy sugar based, or like pretty heavy, like salty, crunchy based. Those are definitely things that can be addictive components, especially to your taste buds. So that's why it is important to think about that in the context of like what is actually happening in my body, why it is important to be eating real food, because again, it takes away a lot of these parts that make it so much harder on ourselves. So your taste buds can get coated in processed food or processed health food, which is usually more the case, and make it hard to actually physically stop doing that behavior because you're addicted to it. So it takes about 2 weeks to clear your taste buds of something like that physically. On the sleep example, could be that you cannot get up in the morning because you're not going to bed at night. You're staying up late, you're watching TV, like that is maybe your only solo time or your you time, which is great. But like, again, it may be a physical thing that you actually just don't have enough sleep and you're tired in the morning, So starting to think about like willpower and discipline here, like, is there anything physical? Okay. If you kind of have rolled out the physical stuff, then we have to move on to like the mental and emotional stuff. So figuring out like whenever you're making a goal or you're wanting to do something, like what is the why behind it? Like, why do you want that thing? What is like your bigger reason for doing that? So like the snacking thing late at night, let's say you want to do it because maybe you want to lose weight. So in that case, you would say like, I want to do this, but then what can start to happen, right, is that you have this, it's almost like self-sabotage. Is, like these self-sabotage can go hand in hand with, okay, like discipline, willpower. And that's when you're like, you say you want these things, but deep down your belief does not match that. You don't think that it's actually possible for you to lose weight. You don't think it's actually possible for you or sustainable because everything that you've tried in the past, every diet, every fad, every trend, everything that everybody else is doing has never worked. Or it's worked for a short amount of time, but not the long haul. So deep down, that's your belief, is that nothing works and something is wrong with me and I can't lose weight. So when you get to that moment late at night and all like your motivation is gone and your energy is low, it's like that is what we deviate to, is those like inner thoughts and beliefs. And that's why, again, I keep mentioning this, but I'm like, this is why it has to be connected to understanding what some of those beliefs and thoughts are so that you can actually heal those things so that you then can move forward in like, no, I believe that I can deserve this. I believe that my body can do this. I know that I can trust my body. Like there are so many things like that are connected. Another reason could be like that it is just not, aligned with what you actually want. Like you're like, yeah, like sounds great to like lose weight, but like when it comes down to it, you don't have a deeper reason. Like your reason could be like, I want to fit into my jeans better. And at the end of the day, that's not enough for your brain to want to make changes, right? It has to be something that is like much deeper rooted for yourself, and a lot of times comes into like your relationship to yourself and your belief of whether or not you are worth it. So that's why I say like with health stuff, with self-sabotage, discipline, willpower, it's rarely ever about the thing itself. It's about something that's usually kind of deeper rooted in there that sometimes we are aware of, but more often than not is something that's like at the subconscious level that takes a little bit of digging to figure out what's really going on there. But when you do, it makes it like that much easier to actually get the results that you want to get. Because again, it's rarely just a surface level thing. Okay, I know you guys are asking like, will this be saved? Yes, that's the plan. That's the tech plan. So yeah, that's the plan. We're hoping that it'll be saved. I'm going to hope to repost this on Instagram to save it to IGTV, and then on the workshop link as well, if you registered for that. Hopefully those always save and have replays. Yeah. So there's saying, wow, nailed it. Makes so much sense. Yes. So again, it's rarely about that thing, that surface level thing. It's always usually something deeper, that's exactly what we do in Simply for Life. So I'm just throwing that out there because it's like these questions, I did not make up any of these. These literally came in. These are the questions that are happening this week as the program is opening. So I believe that I'm like, there's something out there. If these things are resonating with you, I'm like, that's, yeah, like there's so much more. There is so much more there that never gets talked about. We are never like, when it comes to like health and wellness, and it's like, it doesn't matter what everyone else is doing. It doesn't matter what the trend or the like the newest, latest thing is, to go keto or to go low carb or to intermittent and fast or whatever. It's like, that is so much of that is noise unless you are willing to, again, do some of the deeper inner work that helps unblock these stories and limiting beliefs and the fear mindset. And like, that's what we walk around with all day. So there's no way that that doesn't impact every way that you interact in your life. Your relationship to food or to workouts or to health or to boundaries or self-care has everything to do like your relationship to yourself more than it does any of those other things. So that's where, again, can you see? It's all connected. Yeah. And it's not just like a quick fix of like, here, just do this. And like in a week, it'll be cleared. It's like, it takes some kind of like weeding through some questions, some like figuring stuff out. But in the end, when that stuff is cleared, it's like, you are free. You are like, can you imagine how free that would feel? To just like know that you can trust your body, you can trust what it's saying, it's doing the right things, like how to take care of it, the things that you need, the stories that you kind of default to or fall into, when you feel like you're in autopilot or not, when you feel alive and happy and expanded, and you also know the things that make you feel contracted or closed or stressed out or anxious, or like, it is all one thing. It's all one thing. So when you can figure those things out, it's just like the biggest release, and it lets you go out into your life and create the life that you want, create the body that you want, of how it's naturally supposed to be, without all of those things constantly weighing it down, without all the noise getting in your head, without all the comparison of what other people are doing. Like when you can understand yourself, what your body needs, what it needs mentally, emotionally, physically, like what you need, it's the most freeing way to live. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. There was another question that said, how often do you eat sugar or dessert? And whenever I want to. It's the best part about it. Like, I don't feel guilty about it. I try to just eat like a good quality version of whatever it is I want to have, whether it's a chocolate bar or cake or ice cream or whatever it is. I also know how all of those foods affect my body. So I know the ones that are like better choices for me if I don't want to feel any repercussions the next day. And then there's some times where it totally is worth it to have those things. It just, again, comes down to like the moment, who am I with, what's the occasion, what's the situation, like a full kind of intake of what's going on. And I also check in with my emotions. Was it a stressful day? Like, could I be tempted to be numbing out? Or, it's like, it's not about being perfect. It's like knowing what is really actually going on before you're doing something out of habit or just because that's what you do every night. Or again, could be a physical thing of like, if you're eating sugar every night, then you could actually physically be addicted to it because your taste buds are like, craving it. So I eat it whenever I want to, whenever it feels good to me, whenever I feel like I'm doing it from a place of like, yeah, just love and enjoyment versus I'm craving this or I need to have this. So that is definitely a part of my past life, was like being ruled by the cravings and the drive and like, oh, I should have this, I shouldn't have this, or feeling bad, or like I shouldn't really do that, or I'm messing up, or whatever. It's been the best part of doing all the stuff that I teach now, is that sense of freedom, no longer being chained to all that stuff. Okay, there was a question here about hormone balancing, which tends to come up a lot because I still haven't written a post on it, but I know that will kind of be looped into the pregnancy post here of just like preparing and hormone balance in general with, like, I had PCOS, so getting pregnant even with Noah, and then what I did in between that time with nursing and hormone balancing to be able to hopefully get pregnant again. So I can't answer that. You guys tell me, is that more interesting to you? Because I also saw a question here about, heard you speak about having a strong marriage. How have you created a strong marriage? So do we want to do marriage or hormones? Quick vote. Tell me. We have time for like one more because I know Instagram will kick us off at the hour and we're almost there. Okay, let's see. One vote for hormone balancing. Hormone balancing. Okay. Any tiebreakers? Hormone balancing. Hormones. Okay. Hormones. It's coming down this screen. Hormones. Okay. So when it comes to hormone balancing, again, my first go-to is like something, hormone club. Okay. First thing to think about is like, what are the physical components here? Like physically happening. So what things physically do impact our hormones? The one thing, food and your blood sugar balance, and again, also your adrenals, like your nervous system, how jacked up you are in cortisol and caffeine and sugar. And like that's the stuff that makes you go physically up and down, up and down, up and down all day long, which is exhausting on your body, exhausting on your hormone production. And really, like, again, can you see how this is related and why so many women have problems with their hormones, and why this is the thing that everyone is asking, is that we live like stressed out, anxious, overloaded lives. And so there has to be a component of starting to clear and simplify first, starting to become aware of your nervous system, of like the daily, the ways that you are taking care of yourself. And I would say this goes for all ages. So whether it's a hormone, like your hormones are out of balance, younger or in your childbearing years or older, like these are factors to think about. So physical stuff being the food that you are eating, because that is what is connected to your blood sugar. So if you can eat more real food, that's going to be something that naturally balances your blood sugar more than processed health food would. So again, stuff that says that it's healthy on the front of the label, when you look at the back, it's like there's nothing actually real in there. Your body's gonna have a really hard time decoding that. So as much things as you can do to be like stable and steady and calm. So making sure you are eating lots of vegetables, you're drinking lots of water, things that help your system normalize itself and like continue to come back to like a very calm, soothed place. That's what you want inside for your body. So again, thinking about like, are you eating enough healthy fats? That helps like balance your blood sugar. Are you eating good amounts of like protein? And it doesn't have to be crazy. It doesn't have to be like only a fat diet or only a protein diet, but like, do you have the variety? Do you have that happening in your life? Like at most of your meals, more often than not, is it real food? Is it stable? Is it steady? Is it calming? Or is it stuff that's just going to like keep jacking you up and like going up and down the roller coaster all day long? So those would be things to think about. I also have found, just in my own experience, because I'm gluten-free, because in my past, probably for 15 years of my life, I was like always doing the next diet and experimenting. One, because I thought it was fun and I was just like a nerd about that stuff, even when I was young. But two, there was always that deeper, like, I want to lose 5 pounds, or I want, like I never had like the stick thin body that everybody else did or that all my other friends did. So there was always like this thing in the back of my mind. So I find that a lot of times women who do have issues with their hormones, whether it's in trying to get pregnant or coming off the birth control pill, or even later in life, a lot of it can stem from women who have done a lot of dieting or a lot of all or nothing, quick fixes, kind of going back and forth all over the map, like can just do a number on your hormones. So like, I am not surprised that I had stuff come up because of the way that I treated my body in the past. And it's also why I feel so passionate about teaching women to stop dieting and like to get off that roller coaster, because it's damaging. It's damaging our hormones. It's damaging, again, like just our health, the health of our cells, our longevity, our vitality. Like that is what your hormone health is all about. So thinking about that, you want it to kind of like think about your adrenal function. Are you drinking tons of coffee? Are you like having lots of sugar? Like, so these are just like the first basic questions to ask and to get honest with yourself about, and see if there's any ways you can kind of tweak or lessen or try something new, or try matcha instead of like 3 cups of coffee a day. I have a great blog post on that. So things like that, which I think there's a lot that can be done on a micro level, especially with foods, as you're thinking about healing. So for me, taking out like entire categories of foods in different parts of my life, at some points I was like completely vegan. Other points I just wasn't eating any grains. Like this, removing full categories of food, I think, is a factor in then having hormone stuff later. So again, I have found that like just eating real food and from different categories, like the thing that has helped my body, and I don't know if this is scientifically proven, but like is going back to like, yeah, eating like good grains. In my case, they have to be gluten-free, but not being afraid of that, like not being into the low carb thing or the no dairy or no meat. Like with those rigid rules, a lot of times our bodies and our hormones just need different things that they are telling us and trying to give us signals, but we come in with like the health doctrine or this diet says this, or I'm trying to do this, or, without, and it's such a disconnect. So those are two things to think about. The second would be just your overall just like chemical load in your life. So this is why I talk about like products and even using like the natural deodorant and getting your cleaning products and the stuff that you're using around your house. So skincare and makeup and beauty products, a lot of those have chemicals in them that drive your estrogen up. So then we come to be overbearing in the estrogen category, and that can be really dangerous, both for fertility, for hormone balance, for menopause. So that's like a second layer, is like making sure, looking at your overall life of like toxicity levels, because that does impact our hormones. If you're drinking out of plastic bottles every single day for your water, if you're, not eating great quality food, it's like our bodies hold all of that and are very affected by the things around it, especially hormones. There's just a delicate balance. So that's also why I talk about that stuff, because it is your physical stuff, your lifestyle. It's also everything else that's going on. It's also your level of stress and your adrenals and your cortisol, and like how much you are filling your life with things that are overloaded and you feel stressed out and overwhelmed and anxious. Like that plays such a big role on your hormones as well. So again, with all of these things and all these questions, there's like the physical, the mental, and the emotional component. I hope you guys are starting to see that. And again, it's also really important to understand, well, what's going on with you? So in the case of hormones or something that's going on physically, I am such a big proponent of going to get tested. Go get your hormones tested, figure out what the numbers are, figure out what's actually going on, and getting help in that process, seeing a naturopath. Like, you don't need to do it on your own. If you feel like something is off, we all have such a big intuition around that. So like if you feel like something is off or not working, or you have this sort of hunch that something is just feeling weird, go get tested. Like start there. Start with like, are there things I'm doing in my physical life with food, or how I'm eating, or what I'm eating, or my stress level, or my overall stuff, or is it stuff that's in my life? The products, or is there anything I can do to start cleaning some of those things up in the process of figuring out what's going on? So I could talk about this for hours, but I think there's always levels. Start with the physical stuff first. See what you can do with your food. See if there are things that you are deficient in, even in like doing a micronutrient panel of like, you may be low in vitamin D, and that's one of the huge cofactors for producing healthy hormones at all ages. Yeah. So I think it's just important to look at all of those different things and to get really honest with yourself about what is going on all those different levels, so that you can address it from all different sides. And that's really how healing tends to happen. Well, like to heal for good, or as you're moving forward. And again, like a lot of it can stem from the way we live our daily life, like whether that's internally, thoughts, beliefs, emotions, or whether it's externally with the food that we're eating, people we surround ourselves with, like boundaries. It's just, again, it's all connected. Am I sounding like a broken record? It's all connected. Okay, someone here is asking they're like, can you give the link again for Simply Real Life? Because they're like, this sounds like exactly what I need. So it's actually interesting, because this is what we do every week. You guys are getting a weird camera angle. So it's just simplyreallifeprogram.com, and we close tomorrow, which is Friday. But this is what we do. We do like weekly calls like this that are Q&A like this. And every week there's a different theme and a different module, and we walk through from physical to mental to emotional, so that you can go through all these layers, so that you have like a ritual and a practice for no matter what comes up in your life, whether it's hormones or it's a miscarriage or it's stress or it's a new transition in life or it's a different season. Like, you still take the same things and go back to what you know. So it's really this really fascinating process of getting to know yourself, getting to know your body, what it needs, what is normal for you, what feels really good, what things don't feel good. Like, we never take the time to do that. So this is what that's all about, is taking just 6 weeks time to actually nail into those things of who you are and what you need and what you feel great with. And yeah, so that's what it's all about. And I'm so excited. If any of you are interested in that, come join us and check it out. It's amazing. It's incredible. Yes. Okay. Thank you guys for being here. I know we're like, oh, I'm getting the morning. Of course, there's hundreds of questions that came in, but I tried to pick the ones that were maybe the most relevant for the most amount of people. So thank you so much for these awesome questions and for being here. You guys are just amazing. I am the luckiest to have all of you in this community. Such an amazing community of women. Okay. Any lingering things or questions? If you have questions about the program or like things I said or clarifications, just let me know. You can always DM me and also email at hello@completahealth.com, and we are here for you. Okay. I love you guys so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and thank you so much for being here and or for watching this replay live. Bye, you guys. Let's see if I can figure out how to turn it off. You guys, there's no button. Well, yeah, you maybe just leave me here talking to myself.